AI can feel like a buzzword right now, but I have found 10 different ways to use AI in my workflows, both for productivity, for food tracking, lots of shortcuts integrations, just figuring out how to do things in day-to-day life, searching the web better, and helping me automate as much as possible to get everything done. So in this video, I'm going to share 10 AI apps that I literally use every day. And that is not an exaggeration. These apps are an integral part of my workflows, both on my iPhone and my Mac. I'm going to share how I use ChatGPT within shortcuts, where I use Perplexity app versus Comet the browser, a little dabbling with Claude, and yes, even how I'm integrating Apple Intelligence in my workflows. Now, we'll get to all the apps that you're probably expecting, like ChatGPT and Perplexity, in a moment, but the first one I want to shout out is Transcriptionist. I use this every day. Now, typically I use it on my Mac to transcribe videos I record. My typical process, which I have a bunch of keyboard shortcuts, is to create a new document, import an audio file, and start that transcribing. Now, this will take a few seconds to a few minutes depending on the audio file size, but one of the things I love about Transcriptionist, and this applies both to the iPhone, iPad app, and the Mac app, is I can choose what AI brain to transcribe. This will allow me to get a more accurate transcription, although it'll go a little slower, or I can prioritize speed, and I can transcribe those files directly on my iPhone or iPad or on my Mac. You can also choose to prefer shorter sentences or longer paragraphs, but when I'm doing videos, I do shorter sentences because I'll export an SRT file for subtitles on YouTube. And then for export formats, all the formats. I'll do an SRT and then upload that for captions on YouTube, and I'll also do a plain text version that I then use with ChatGPT to help me with titles, descriptions, and tags. I'll show you that process in a second. And these transcriptions do benefit from the upgrade I did with my recent M4 Max. If you want to see a video where I tested transcription speeds on my M1 Max versus M4 Max Mac Studio, I'll put that video right here. Number 2, a recent new practice for me is tracking food. And the app that I found and love is Foodnoms. Now, if you download it today, it might look a little different because this is the iOS 26 version coming soon, but I've been tracking my calories and macros with Foodnoms, and it has made a huge difference. Now, Foodnoms is great because you can add meals and favorite foods and then quickly log them for whatever meal you want, but there is also Foodnoms AI. Now, you can just take a picture of your meal in real time, or you can actually use a saved photo. So this is a dinner I had, and then I'll describe it. The more details, the better when you're giving it to the Foodnoms AI, but it's going to take that picture and the text that you give it and then try to parse out everything it sees and then break down all the nutrition information in just a few moments. You can see it's already picking out things like pickled onions and cheese, which I didn't put in the text. It's just getting that from the photo. And then you'll see a breakdown of all the things it detected in the photo, and with what you described, you can quickly log this as a meal and still adjust it as you need. You can also track things like water and caffeine intake and adjust what macros appear here on the homepage. I just love Foodnoms. App number 3 that I do use every day is Comet from Perplexity. And I did a whole video talking about the 10 use cases for an AI browser like Comet, but I use it every day for 2 things. Every weekday, I publish an episode of Primary Tech Daily. That's a benefit for paying members of my tech podcast, Primary Technology with Jason Aten. New episodes every Thursday. Subscribe above, link below. But whenever I create a new episode here in Apple Podcasts, I have to wait till the audio is finished processing in order to hit publish. And I have to keep refreshing the page in Apple Podcasts just to do that. It wastes time. Sometimes I forget to refresh and actually hit publish. So I use Comet from Perplexity, which now also has programmable shortcuts, not to be confused with like actual shortcuts. But I program /podcast to tell Comet, refresh this site every 60 seconds, click publish when that button finally comes available. Just this little task is a weight lifted. You'll see it's already refreshing the website on its own. It's not going to publish this episode because it's already published, but I can leave this tab doing what it's doing, and I know the episode will get published and I don't have to babysit it. The second use case for Comet that I use pretty often is finding clips on YouTube. So maybe I want a clip for a video or I'm doing some research. I can ask Comet to find a clip of something. Here I'm going to ask to find a clip of Steve Jobs talking about how Apple's at the intersection of liberal arts and technology. It's going to search YouTube, find this clip, and then it's automatically going to bring me right to that timestamp in the video. You see, I'm not doing anything. It brought me right to this video, and look, and you can see it's starting to play right at that point. Steve Jobs talking about liberal arts and technology. Pretty wild. All right, number 4, Apple Intelligence. I'm actually using this more and more as I've had the betas on my Mac and iPhone. Now, I'm not using image playgrounds or writing tools and things like that. I'm actually integrating it in more and more shortcuts. This is a bunch of shortcuts where I'm slowly replacing ChatGPT with Apple Intelligence. By the way, get subscribed because I'm going to have a bunch of shortcuts videos talking about Apple Intelligence and iOS 26 once it comes out for everyone. So a couple examples. I've been getting a lot of recipes on Instagram in the Reels because I'm tracking with Foodnoms, trying to do high protein recipes. And this is a shortcut I created that I can share when I'm looking at a reel. It has a prompt right here to format the recipe into a note. And then what I've been doing is taking the use model action, which uses Apple Intelligence, and replacing the ChatGPT actions. Now, depending on the use case, I'll actually still use the ChatGPT extension in the model action. The reason being, this is much more reliable because when you use the built-in ChatGPT app action, especially on iPhone, oftentimes it fails or you have to go launch the ChatGPT app and then run the shortcut again. And I find using the Apple Intelligence models action with ChatGPT extension, it works like 99.9% of the time. So this shortcut, which is now powered by Apple Intelligence, often I find the recipe is put in the captions better on Instagram than other platforms. And I can hit the share button, go to share to, and then run my shortcut real recipe to bear. That's now powered by Apple Intelligence. And in just a few seconds, it's going to create a bear note with the recipe broken out into ingredients, the steps, and even have a link to the original Instagram reel. Link to this shortcut and a couple others that I'm going to mention will be down in the video description too. Also, another Apple Intelligence shortcuts integration that I've been using is with transcribing audio files. Now, I use Transcriptionist for all my videos and things like that, but maybe I've downloaded an audio file, or maybe I just want a quick summary of this 2-hour-long podcast. I won't use Transcriptionist for that. I'll actually use this shortcut, which I can run in the share sheet. It's actually using the built-in transcribe action that's now in macOS Tahoe, and then using that Apple Intelligence use models action, but the ChatGPT extension. With longer transcripts, private cloud compute and the on-device Apple Intelligence models will error out. It just can't handle that long of transcripts. Then it just creates a summary of that audio file in a note. So for instance, I'll take one of these Primary Tech Daily episodes. I can go to share, and you can also add this to the quick menu. I'll go to shortcuts, and there's my summarized audio file shortcut. I'll click share. And now that shortcut's going to run in the background for a few seconds or a few minutes, depending how long the audio file is. Nice in macOS Tahoe, you get the shortcuts process here in the menu bar. I'll title the note, and that quickly I have a summary and key point takeaway from that audio file, plus the full transcript is here in the note. And that was done with the built-in transcribe action and the built-in Apple Intelligence use models action. Next, I actually put Perplexity on my main home screen, and I've been using it as my default search engine. I find I prefer the results I get from this as opposed to Google and those AI overviews. And just a simple example, a recent search I did, I was testing out mirrorless cameras in webcam mode, and I asked it, what's the deal? Why doesn't the Lumix S5 II show up as a webcam on the Mac? And Perplexity actually told me the reason and that it doesn't work, where the Google AI overview was trying to walk me through certain steps. I also just like the design of the search results from Perplexity. I can see the sources, and I finally given in to actually looking at some of the Reddit results because these are actual users, and this is where I found the answer that beta webcam software just isn't working right now. I was also doing a recent search about URL schemes as they recently changed. Once more apps went into the apps section of iPhone settings, and Perplexity was able to help me really fast. I didn't have to do multiple searches or a bunch of follow-ups. Next, this is an app I use both on my iPhone and my Mac, and it's called AI Actions. All this app does is allow you to use ChatGPT via your API key rather than the ChatGPT app. The reason I do this, again, using the built-in ChatGPT app action, I find to be very unreliable in shortcuts, but AI Actions, super solid. And a lot of the shortcuts, especially for my podcast and video production, has that AI Actions built in. A quick example of how I use this. So every episode for Primary Technology, all the links that I talked about are in a tab group. I'll click and copy all the links, and then I'll run this shortcut. Not only does it format those links, but it's also going to give me a menu choice to choose a few articles, and it's going to send a little prompt with the articles and the titles of those articles I choose through that Ask AI action. And here you actually have a lot more options than that built-in ChatGPT app. Not only can you attach images to a prompt using AI Actions, but you have more control over what model is being used and all these settings down here. So with all those links on my clipboard, I'll run this shortcut. You'll see it's going through, formatting all those links. And in a moment, it's going to ask me what articles I want to use for the title and description of this podcast episode. And now that popped up, I do want to talk about the Apple event, iPhone 17 Pro. Let's go with the Nothing phone. And now when I hit done, it's going to be sending those articles through the Ask AI action. You can see it highlighted here. And in a few moments, I have my podcast show notes already formatted in HTML. Here's a title that was generated with ChatGPT through the AI Actions. I have a description for my episode, and I often massage and change this a little bit, but I don't have to start from scratch. It just gives it to me right here. And not only do I have HTML formatting for my podcast host, but I also have it formatted through that shortcut so it's ready for YouTube, and I can just copy and paste this in the YouTube video description. Number 7, of course, I use a bunch of ChatGPT. Here on my Mac, I like using the native ChatGPT app. I have some custom GPTs, one made for YouTube videos, helping with titles and descriptions. I have my custom Shortcuts GPT, which helps me with match text commands and working with APIs, which you can actually get access to my Shortcuts GPT right now. Just go to create.beard.fm. I have an online community there all about shortcuts. You can join for free, interact with over 2,000 people already in the community who love shortcuts, and you can support the channel with $5 a month. You get my shortcut of the week, you get my shortcuts database, and shortcuts videos without ads directly in the platform. So you can get that at create.beard.fm. But here in my Mac, what I'll often do is take a transcript from Transcriptionist, give it to ChatGPT. So here's the file, here's the prompt, and then I'll ask it for titles, descriptions, and tags. I also ask it what videos did I mention at the end of the transcript so I know what to put on the YouTube end screen. And then sometimes I'll ask it for more title ideas, and I do it all with the ChatGPT app on my Mac. But whenever I need to figure out how to do something at home, around the house, I will also use the ChatGPT app on my iPhone. For instance, we got this trampoline with this hose attachment, and there was this quick locking mechanism. I should probably know how to use this. I didn't. So I sent a picture to ChatGPT, and it walked me through how to disconnect how it came out of the box, and also how to connect it to my current gardening hose. And honestly, all the instructions it gave me here helped me get it working. I've also asked it questions about home appliances, sending pictures of a garbage disposal before I change it. I find ChatGPT in that general knowledge around the house type requests really works well. And being able to send a picture with a question, it goes a long way. Number 8 is the tool I use to record primary technology every week. Yes, I use Riverside to record and edit and even make shorts of the episodes. Full disclosure, I do work for Riverside. I've been on the team for 3+ years. I love everything about it, but I pay for my own account still because it's worth it. And when you record with Riverside, you get a bunch of AI tools like AI-generated show notes. The Magic Clips really helps create those short-form videos that I share every day we don't post a full episode. Plus you get the transcript, I can remove silences and filler words, all that. Number 9 is Claude. Now, I was using Claude every day because I was trying to make a podcast app. I wrote a little blog post about it, I'll link it below. But Claude, ChatGPT, and all of them were not powerful enough. Having zero code knowledge, I couldn't make a podcast app. But with the latest beta of Xcode 26, you can connect Claude directly with Xcode. You don't need an API key. You can actually just go to the settings, log in with your Claude account, and you can use ChatGPT up to GPT-5, and it can code right here in Xcode. Now, your mileage may vary, and I couldn't get a full podcast app out of them building it, but I did try the Claude app for Mac, and I tried Claude in Xcode, and I did find overall that Claude had less errors, was able to fix more bugs, and allow me to actually build and run the app in the simulator more than GPT-5. I'll talk about it in the blog post, but there are many times GPT-5, it felt like we were going in circles, errors just kept happening, even the same error over and over again. So Claude is one I would use if I was trying to code. And maybe I'll try to make another app soon. And finally, number 10, this isn't a whole app, but one of the best Apple Intelligence features that I do use pretty often is cleanup. When I've taken a photo and I want to remove someone from that photo, I actually find the built-in cleanup, which is an Apple Intelligence feature, to be really good. Now, if you have a complicated background, if there's a lot of people in a photo, it might struggle, but just having cleanup on, I can circle a subject right here. It recognizes the person pretty quickly, and it just removes them from the photo. When it comes to just cleaning up a photo, maybe it's a nice selfie or family picture and you want to get something out of the background, I do find that that cleanup feature works really well. That was 10 AI apps I use every day. Now get subscribed because lots of iOS 26 content coming soon, like those Apple Intelligence shortcuts. But if you want an early look at some of the shortcuts I'm building with Apple Intelligence, check out my video on that right here. Hit that like button if you have any questions or AI apps that you find are integral to your workflow. I'd love to hear about it down in the comments. If you have any questions or AI apps that are integral to your workflow, I'd love to hear about it. Drop them in the comments below, and I'll put a video up here that YouTube thinks you'll really enjoy. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.